The best, most important advice that I can give you is that your project will only be as good as your question.
The best advice that I can give students about research is, A, first take a deep breath. Don't be scared about it. Don't be intimidated by it. 2, find somebody to talk to, professor, a TA, another student, about what it is that you're interested in. And then 3, don't be afraid to walk into a professor's office and talk to him or her about the issues that you want to pursue. In other words, get off your duff and get into the game.
I am a big proponent of this notion of finding the place where people's passions and sort of their academic interests intersect. That's not always the best place to be, but for most students, that's what they're trying to sort out in college. What do I care about? What do I want to do with my life? And what do I need to study to sort of get to that place? And too often those things, I think, can become siloed for students, and that's particularly where they get confused and sometimes distressed about what they should be doing. So just that sort of advising, counseling process of walking students through their own process of figuring out what they care about and how those things might be practiced and educated in a way that's going to make them more successful.
I think the best advice is talk to people who are actively doing research, whether they're faculty or graduate students or postdocs, especially in the area you're interested in. And if you're very fortunate, working on the topic that you have some interest in. That'll very quickly give you a sense of what we know about this topic, what are some interesting questions that people are asking right now, whether they're policymakers or practitioners, and that's the first step, I think.
Start early and also be open to asking for suggestions and be open to also pursuing different avenues, and that you'd kind of let your ideas ferment, and for that to happen you have to start early. And you have to be in conversation.
Go into it with the awareness that there's such a thing as negative research. And what I mean by that is you can do a lot of digging, and it can take a fair amount of time, but it doesn't necessarily come up with something that you can immediately identify as useful. But sometimes eliminating what's not useful is the best way to get you to what is useful. Make sure you're starting with sources that you can trust. Make sure you think about how to judge the reliability of a source, and don't bite off too much.
Independent research gives students an opportunity to pursue in detail an issue or a topic that they're passionate about, that maybe they learned about in a course or from their own personal experiences, and it allows them to sort of investigate this in a level of detail that is just not possible, in the context of a normal course. Simply doing research and the practice of compiling information and learning how to marshal an argument, those are skills that are applicable for any career that a student is going to be going into. They should think concretely about pursuing topics that they are passionate about and interested in. As well, encouraging them that if you've got a good idea, that there are resources within the university, resources within different programs to pursue their goals and pursue that research.
Learning isn't just about absorbing information from other people. It's about pursuing your own interests. And I think what's so fascinating about the research process is you come up with something that either weirds you out or completely interests you, and you're like, what is this all about? I want to find out about this. And then you begin to realize that you yourself have ideas. You begin to realize that you yourself have the capacity to define certain kinds of interests. So it's a way of developing your capacity to think, your capacity to be original, your capacity to be creative.
The one piece of advice that I think is really essential is that students should not be afraid to think big one can think big and not necessarily have to expect that they're going to answer all of those questions. So kind of thinking about the ways in which your individual research topic taps into all kinds of exciting and interesting domains is what makes it interesting and useful and a contribution, but that students shouldn't expect necessarily that they're going to be able to answer all of those things in their first try, that this is part of a trajectory that they might want to pursue over a lifetime. And if not, then it contributes to one way of thinking about how they might answer other questions. So think big, but you don't need to necessarily answer all of the questions you could think of.